Today's independent artist carries a massive load. They are the songwriter, the performer, and the producer, often executing all those roles from a single desk crammed into a spare bedroom or a treated garage. Alongside the writing and recording, they face the immense pressure of engineering a mix that has to sound flawless everywhere. That track needs to hit hard on expensive studio monitors, punch through a club PA system, and still sound balanced on a pair of cheap plastic earbuds. Trying to achieve that perfection inevitably leads to the 2 a.m. wall. You are staring at 40 different tracks on a glowing screen. Ear fatigue has completely taken over, and any sense of objectivity is gone. At that hour, the main obstacle to finishing a song isn't a lack of high-end analog gear. It is a compromised acoustic environment and an exhausted set of ears that can no longer recognize the truth of what they are hearing. This physical vulnerability is exactly what the software market targets with the myth of the one-button mix. The promise is incredibly tempting. Press a single glowing button and instantly get a professional, radio-ready track. But treating music like a spreadsheet is a mistake. Mixing is emotional design. It dictates what feels intimate, what feels dangerous, and what feels raw. It requires real intent, not mathematical problem solving. If you hand that entire process over to an automated algorithm, it sands down all the rough edges that made the recording special. It takes a vocal with real emotional strain, or a wonderfully gritty drum hit, and shapes them into something sterile and perfectly average. You do not need artificial intelligence to take over as the producer. You need it to serve as a second set of ears, an analytical tool that shows you the blind spots you cannot hear yourself. To see how this actually works, we have to look at the microscopic level of a mix. The hardest concept to grasp is that every single sound you add instantly alters how you perceive every other sound. This creates an invisible traffic jam called frequency masking. It happens when two instruments, say a thick acoustic guitar and a lead vocal, fight to occupy the exact same sonic real estate. This graph illustrates that conflict perfectly. We have two wave shapes representing our instruments, and right in the center, you can see exactly where they overlap. Intelligent EQ tools analyze these collisions and map out exactly where the frequencies are choking each other. Once the AI identifies the jam, it suggests a starting point. It carves out a specific dip in one of those wave shapes to clear the overlap and let the other instrument breathe. Here is where the human element steps back in. You bypass the AI suggestion, listen to the difference, and make a deliberate choice about which of those two instruments actually deserves to win that space. The algorithm is not dictating the final EQ curve. It is simply providing a high-resolution map of the problem, giving you the clarity to make an informed, artistic judgment. That same mapping principle applies to your physical environment. Small bedroom studios with untreated drywall physically ruin recordings, creating harsh reflections and boxy resonance that build up invisibly. Modern AI resonance suppressors act like a surgical scalpel for these specific issues. They listen for that chaotic, room-induced muddiness and isolate it, pulling out the harsh frequencies without destroying the core of the vocal performance. AI compressors do something similar for dynamics. They offer multiple behavioral options, showing you the distinct difference between a bass line that is squeezed completely flat and one that is controlled yet punchy and alive. By pinpointing these specific physical and dynamic flaws, the software actively trains your brain. It teaches you to recognize exactly what a bad room or a poorly set compressor sounds like. All of this learning relies on one physical action. Toggling the bypass button on your plugins is the single most important habit you can develop in an AI-assisted workflow. Every time you click that button off and back on, you have to ask a brutal question. Did this algorithm actually fix a technical problem, or did it just steal the soul of the performance? True mixing skill is not forged by sitting back and letting the machine organize the session. It is built in that tiny micro moment of critical comparison between your raw human recording and the sanitized suggestion of the software. This brings us to the final stage of the process, comparing your track to professional references and running it through an AI mastering tool. The hard truth is that an AI master is not a rescue mission. If your lead vocal is buried under the guitars or your bass line is a muddy mess, mastering will not untangle it. Instead, treat AI mastering as a diagnostic blacklight. If you apply it and your track starts pumping wildly or the cymbals turn brittle and harsh, the software is exposing a foundational error in your underlying mix. The smartest way to use these final stage tools is as a harsh mirror. You listen to the flaws it reveals, take the mastering tool off, and go back to fix your mistakes at the source. This level of critical listening carries real economic stakes for independent artists. A technically flawed mix quietly closes doors. Playlist curators and music supervisors will not email you to explain that your high end was too harsh. They will just skip the track and move on. What these new tools provide is a way to raise the floor. By eliminating obvious amateur technical errors, they ensure your work is evaluated fairly, based purely on its musical merit. But as we look at this diagram of a perfectly straight, uniform line, we see an approaching industry paradox. As AI assistance becomes the standard, a flawlessly clean and loud mix may be easily accessible to everyone. Technical perfection will stop being a competitive advantage. In a landscape of impeccably clean tracks, the only premium left is human taste. The value lies in jagged, organic anomalies, the intentional decision to leave a vocal dangerously dry or a drum kit wonderfully raw. The machine does not render the artist obsolete. By stripping away the friction of technical troubleshooting, it forces you to become a master of emotional intention. The human element has never been more vital.